Recession indicator to me is the reaction people are having to celebrity Halloween costumes this year. Because to be honest, celebrities aren't doing anything different than they have done.
I am so glad someone brought it up. Yes, a lot of people are having very big reactions to all of these overly extravagant Halloween parties and Halloween costumes this year. But why? They didn't do anything different, honestly, this year than they've been doing for many years. Heidi Klum always throws this huge Halloween party where all the big celebrities go all out. And there's always someone who dresses in a controversial costume that gets canceled every year. And I still watched it all. It's good entertainment, a way to disconnect for a little bit, but even I felt a little bit strange, and you have to ask yourself why. It's not that anything here has changed, it's because everything around and surrounding it has changed. And I think this headline hits the nail on the head, so before we dive in, as always, make sure you like, rage, comment, repost, and follow along for more. But yeah, I think it says it all that he understood what was in theme this year, and they're making fun of it all. It is feeling very much so like a 1780s let them eat cake era right now. A lot of people rebuttal, well, we're not there yet statistically, right? We still haven't reached that level of wealth gap and wealth inequality. And whilst you're correct, I do want to explain exactly where we're at and where we may or may not be heading in comparison to some other times in history. But you're right, back in France around the let them eat cake era of 1780-ish, the top 10% of people held 90% of all the wealth in the country, and the top 1% specifically held 60%. And later I'll get into the stats of where we're at. We haven't reached this quite yet, but we all know where this ended. There are other times in history, though, that are similar. Because right after that, around 1810, remember with A Christmas Carol coming up here quickly, they wrote about the Industrial Revolution, which skyrocketed us into the Gilded Age, which was another insane era of wealth inequality. We've talked a lot about the Gilded Age and a certain group's obsession with this time period and how the richest of the rich were the only ones having fun while everyone else suffered. At that time period, it peaked with the top 10% holding 80 to 90% of all the wealth and the top 1% holding 45 to 65%, depending on where you're looking. We all know how that ended, but most importantly with the Great Depression. And in order to get out of that into one of our most prosperous for everyone time periods in history, they referred to as the baby boom, it enacted a lot of policies we've gone over before, taxing the wealthiest of people. So it makes you wonder, where are we at today in 2025? Well, the reports are saying the top 10% here in the US hold 67% of all the wealth, so almost 70, whilst the top 1% hold about 31%. A concerning new thing to note is that the top 0.1% of people now own almost just as much as the top 1% entirely. If you're a visual person like I am, I made a little graph to compare. So are we quite there yet? No, but we are rapidly approaching it. Right back in 1970 through 90-ish, these numbers looked entirely different. There's only really two solid ways out of this, and it doesn't seem like we're going with the sensible one, so maybe that's why it's feeling like that.